Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Virtual Tastings at Whitey's. Tonight we are with our friend Charlie from Old Line Spirits up in Highlandtown. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about what's happening at Old Line, give everybody a little bit of a refresher of their products. And I'm talking about some events coming up now that the COVID thing is like a little bit in the rearview mirror, hopefully, and people getting vaxxed up and stuff. We can I know they're more open for business, so that'll be good to see what's happening up there with them. I'm actually going to pour some out here in a little bit. I have the single malt. I'm going to drink it. I'm going to drink it rocks. But anyway, well, before we get started with Charlie, there's a couple things I want to announce. So at the store, we're doing a thing called November. Let me pull up this picture. And this is a benefit for with our friends at RAR. So we're trying to be clever with the whole November thing. I noticed the generosity. That was all me. Thank you very much. Anyway, if for every canned good and non-perishable you bring in, we'll give you 5% off a 6 pack of RAR product. So so Nana Coke is like whatever, 10.99. So you get 5% off that for 1 can, 10% off for 2 cans, up to 5 cans where you can save up to 25% on RAR product. We're doing a special event with them on the 18th. So stay tuned for that. And then, of course, this weekend, I don't know if anybody watched last night, but this weekend we have the Tits Up release party and classic car show, costume contest, food, beverages. We'll be showing the classic Baltimore film Hairspray. Everybody knows that, the John Waters film. If you're from Baltimore, you definitely know it. So we'll be showing that in the parking lot. We have a few other things coming up tomorrow night. I'm talking with the folks from Sweetwater Brewing down in Georgia about some of their new products coming out. They have like a new local IPA, an almond milk stout, which I'm kind of excited to try tomorrow night. So that happens tomorrow night. So we'd love for you to tune in and check us out tomorrow night with that. And we got a couple other things coming up. I'll talk about them a little bit tomorrow because we want to get right to Charlie and get this party started with the good folks at Old Line Spirit. So without further ado, here is our good friend, Charlie Stein, friend of the show, friend of the store, friend of whiskey.
All around good guy. Thanks, Rob.
All around good guy.
Really appreciate you having us on again. So as folks who may have been on in the past might imagine, since last we spoke, a lot of things have been going on at the distillery. All summer long, we had our courtyard bar open and for outdoor seating with the bar set up in the warehouse. But as the weather starts to get a little cooler and as more people are vaccinated for COVID, and that's getting easier to do, this weekend, we're going to begin to move everything back inside to the original bar, which was called the Ready Room. So we're going to close down the flight deck as our normal place of entertaining folks. It'll still be available if people want to use it for a private event or anything like that. And then we're going to move everything inside to the Ready Room. So just a reminder, a refresher on what Old Line Spirits is all about. We're a craft distillery in Highlandtown over on the east side of town. If you're familiar with the Mr. Bow sign that you can see from 95, I like to tell people that Mr. Bow is gazing lovingly down on our distillery. So we're in the shadow of Brewers Hill. We've been in business for going on for 4 years now. So we opened for business in 2017. What we produce at the distillery is an American single malt whiskey. And then we also have in our lineup, there you go, that's our 86.
There it is. That's the flagship.
Yep. And then we also have aged Caribbean rum. And what we've been able to do over the past couple of years is really begin what we call our barrel program with double oaking of our whiskey, and then also using the whiskey barrels to finish our rum. And then after the rum has been in the barrel, we use that barrel to finish our whiskey. So our traditional lineup is 86 proof American single malt whiskey, cask strength American single malt whiskey, which will run about 122 to 123 proof, aged Caribbean rum at 84 proof, and our Navy strength aged Caribbean rum at 114 proof. That's what our lineup is. For folks who don't know what an American single malt whiskey is, it's a relatively new type of whiskey in the market. Whiskey is any distilled spirit made from grain, so you can use any grain. Corn, rye, wheat, barley are the four primary grains that are used in whiskeys, but you could also use quinoa, buckwheat. I've even got some rice whiskey. It just has to be made from grain, and it has to be aged in a wooden barrel. And that's it. As long as you got those two things going, you can call it whiskey. We use 100% barley in our mash bill. That's the only grain that we use. And since it's from one distillery, that's what makes it a single malt. So single malt means one grain, one distillery. It's the same type of grain that's used for Scotch whiskey, Irish whiskey, Indian single malts, Japanese single malts, Taiwanese single malts. There are a lot of single malt whiskeys out there. As long as it's one grain and one distillery, it can be a single malt. And most single malts are made from barley.
Is the barley locally sourced, or is it enough production Maryland-wise for that to happen?
Yeah, so we would like to source the barley locally because we're here. We would like to buy from a local malt producer, but we haven't been able to find one who has a malted barley that has the same characteristics of the original recipe that we brought back to Baltimore from Washington State. So we actually source our malted barley from the same malt house the guys who founded the original distillery used out in Washington State.
Okay.
So
do you guys, you don't do, maybe you do, I'm not even sure. Do you guys do a rye?
We don't.
Or are you looking at doing a rye?
The thought process on doing a rye would be that in collaboration with Monument City, who makes a terrific 51 rye IPA, we would take some of that beer and distill it, and we could release it as a straight rye whiskey because it's at least 51% rye in the mash bill.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's the rule on straight rye and on straight bourbon. Straight rye has to be 51% rye. Straight bourbon has to be 51% corn. The rest of the mash bill can be whatever grains you want them to be, as long as they're grains. It just has to be a grain.
Right.
You can't use potatoes or sugar cane or any of those things that go into other distilled spirits.
Okay.
So we've talked to Monument City about doing that. The thing about working with rye, I don't know if you've talked to any of your friends who make rye whiskey. It's a really difficult grain to work with. The grains themselves are pretty small, so when you're milling it, you've got to deal with that. And then when you mash it and ferment it, it tends to be kind of sticky and gummy.
Okay.
So it's not a lot of fun to work with. It makes a terrific whiskey. My favorite whiskey is rye whiskey. I'm sipping some right now from our good friends at McClintock's out in Frederick. They're bootstrap whiskey. It's delicious.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
But we're focusing on, from a production standpoint, focusing on our flagship product, which is the American single malt whiskey. And then in order to get some variations in the flavor profile, we're using different types of casks to finish the whiskey and to bring some different characteristics into it.
Yeah, because you have a rum, like a rum cask whiskey, yes?
Yep. Yeah, so we have the whiskey that we finished in our rum casks, and we have the rum that we finished in our whiskey casks. So that's how we create the Caribbean rum cask, is we take our used whiskey barrel, put rum in it and let it sit. And then we're releasing a cask finished rum that isn't quite as sweet as our regular aged Caribbean rum. It's got some malty notes to it. It has a little more versatility in terms of making cocktails because it's not straight up rum. And then we take those barrels that had the rum in it and we put our whiskey back in it. The whiskey pulls out that residual rum and we have a Caribbean rum finished American single malt whiskey.
I only asked about rye because I feel like rye is like a very Maryland thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And so back in 2014, 2015, when the guys were looking to open the distillery and incorporate it, I'm pretty sure they thought about doing rye, but they probably thought somebody else is going to be doing rye. We wanted to bring something into the market that was really different and sort of differentiate ourselves from the other craft distilleries. They make a great rye whiskey at Baltimore Spirits Company. I love it. They make a great rye whiskey at Sagamore. It's delicious. They make a great rye whiskey at McClintock. It's wonderful. So, but that's 3 distilleries between here and Frederick that are making rye. We're not going to compete with them head to head on product.
Right. I mean that's fair. I mean, and craft distilleries are a little bit more up and coming. I mean, there's still breweries open, but I feel like there's more interesting craft spirits, particularly craft brown spirits.
Oh yeah. There are a couple of rum distilleries between here and Frederick that are wonderful and make a great product.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just wondering about that because you always see like, remember that one Pikesville rye?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, that used to be like, I don't even know if it's made in Pikesville, Maryland, but maybe it originated. I don't know the backstory and that stuff. But
it was certainly made in Maryland.
Yeah, originally. I don't know who makes it now, but I knew it was like a big, and that was the only one for a really long time. And it used to be really inexpensive. And then I think they got bought, and whoever bought them just like blew up the price. So
yeah, so there's a thing about the grain and the whiskey that you're going to make depending on your locality. Rye whiskey was popular in Maryland and in Pennsylvania because rye is a great winter cover crop. We grew a lot of it around here, so we had rye whiskey.
Yeah, we basically like about 200 yards from my house is a couple fields, and he was out the other day planting winter rye. That's one of the reasons I asked too.
Yeah, so a farmer is he's gonna take some of his grain, whatever it is, whether it's rye, wheat, corn. He's going to take some of that grain and he's going to sell it. He's going to take some of that grain and it's going to be for his animals, maybe. He's going to take some of it, it's going to be for his family. But that residual grain, if he has any left over, he needs to figure out what to do with that so that it won't spoil.
Right.
He could ferment it into beer and it'll last a little bit longer. So that gets, some additional use out of that grain, or distill it into whiskey and it lasts forever. And that's how whiskey was used in the early days of the country. Corn in Kentucky and Tennessee, because it grows there.
Right.
Rye came over here from Germany because it grows there. Barley is used for whiskey in Scotland because it grows there. So that's kind of and sugar. I mean, sugar cane is used for rum because it grows in that part of the world. So take what you have and you turn it into whiskey.
Right, like like down in New Orleans, they have sugar plantations down in that neck of the woods. If you ask the women from Lion Rum, they talk about it often. They take trips down there to buy the sugar cane. So
yeah, and Jamie's great. We're friends with Jamie as well from Lion. That's another terrific distillery nearby. Makes a really great product.
I did want to ask about so is your outside seating totally done or is it still available?
So we're transitioning from the outside into the inside because the weather is starting to close down. Our ready room.
You guys don't do like fire
control.
pits or anything like that?
Well, we don't have one. We do have a couple of those big, those umbrella style propane heaters. So if we did an event in the warehouse and it was cold, we would turn it on. We could do a private event outside in the courtyard and set some of those up and turn them on. But we're really trying to move things back inside, get the ready room going again, and have people in a spot that's going to be a lot more comfortable without having to deal with buying propane and running heaters and, you know, all the other stuff that goes along with it. So it's a lot easier for us and a lot more comfortable, we think, for our guests to be able to bring them back inside.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense. I was just wondering, because, you know, there's some places that do like the whole fire pit thing and this and that and the other, so.
Yeah, I mean,
although I don't know, like in like Baltimore proper, if that's
I don't know what the rules are. We've
I don't either.
For it. If we wanted to set one up and put it in there, you know, a nice big fire pit permanently, we could probably do that. There's a lot of stuff going on. That's one
people will be taking that high proof whiskey and throw it in the fire to get like.
Yeah, there you go. that would get it started. So since we talked about the courtyard, we talked about the ready room, I'd like to go into some of the things that are going on at the distillery.
Sure.
Events that we're having as we begin to transition back into the inside. Friday night, 12th of November, this coming Friday, we're going to have an event called Rum and Reduction at 6:30. So this is for your highbrow, your really highbrow customers, Rob. It's a reading series, and we've done a couple of these. We're going to feature two accomplished authors, and then we've come up with a signature rum cocktail.
Oh, cool!
Pair with each one of the authors. That's at 6:30. It's not a ticketed event, so it's free of charge. Friday night, the 12th.
That sounds cool.
The big thing that's coming up is on Saturday the 13th. We're going to be doing our fall fling. So we do a spring fling and a fall fling. We missed the spring one because of COVID, but that gave us some time to put some really special things together for the fall fling. So Saturday, November 13th, from 1 until 9. It's not a ticketed event, so it's open to the public. We're going to have music. We're going to have food. We're reopening the ready room. We will have our fresh eggnog to buy by the glass. So that'll be there at the bar, and we have 3 different recipes of an old fashioned that we'll have. But the big deal is that we're releasing 2 of our double oaked whiskeys. One American single malt whiskey, fully aged, and then finished in port wine casks.
Okay.
And then the second one is really special. Fully aged American single malt whiskey aged in Madeira casks. I know a lot of people are probably familiar with port wine. Madeira is a fortified wine from the Madeira island of Spain. It was a favorite wine of George Washington. There's not a lot of it, so there aren't a lot of used casks. And we got a hold of a couple and put our whiskey in it and let it age. So those will be released on the 13th.
And that's a bottled product, but so that must be a pretty limited run.
Yeah, so I don't think we're going to sell out on Saturday. We may have enough that it will get into distribution. So for some of our better accounts, like you guys and some of the other places that move our product, you might see that stuff showing up on the shelves. There's not a ton of it.
Right. How big is? But see, from the beer world, a cask isn't very big. So how big is like a Madeira cask, gallonage wise?
So a standard cask is 53 gallons.
Okay.
From a 53-gallon cask, you can get somewhere between 240 and 270 bottles.
Okay.
depending on evaporation and absorption and how you proof it. If at
Right.
cask strength, you'll get fewer. If you proof it down to 100, you'll get more. So
Okay.
Madeira casks and port wine barrels, some of them have been bourbon barrels for starters, and then they're used to age wine. So you've got these 53-gallon barrels that are all floating around there that have had different things in them. Distillers get a hold of them, get a sense of what that flavor profile is in that barrel, throw the whiskey in, and let the magic happen.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because it confuses me, like, because a beer cask is like very small. So when people say that, I'm like, just for clarification for people to know.
Right.
So all right, so that's a sizable. I mean, that's not a huge amount of bottles, but it's a solid amount of bottles.
Yeah, and we've got we don't have just one cask of each, so we'll have a fair amount of bottles out there. So if you go into a brewery, and a lot of breweries, you'll see they have used whiskey barrels sitting there finishing their beer.
Right.
Stouts and porters are really good to be finished in a used whiskey barrel.
Yeah, we have one over at Monument, which is our vanilla porter from last year.
Yep.
And that's basically ready now. I think I'm going to hold off. We're going to hold off a little bit, but I tried it the other day when I was over there, and it's tasting great. It's a Buffalo Trace barrel.
Yep.
It's tasting great. The vanilla is a little bit faded from the beer, so we'll probably add some vanilla to it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's tasting great. But we'll probably, like something like that in a brewery, it's that barrel isn't really enough to do a lot of a bottling run or a canning run. So we just go into sixtels.
Yeah. So it's going to be 53 gallons. If you have one of them, it'll be, 100 gallons if you have more. That translates into a fair amount of beer to release at the distillery or to have in limited distribution. It's done with, partnership with like you guys.
Right.
I mean, it's enough that it's worth it and you make some money off of it.
Yeah. So we're holding off on that. I think we're probably holding off on that till the expansion happens and like the grand opening for the expansion at the store or whatever. So all right, very cool. Anything else you guys got going on?
One last thing I want to talk about, then we'll go ahead and make the cocktail. On November 20th, that's a week from this Saturday, we'll be doing tours and tastings at the distillery, just like we normally do. There will be no tour on Saturday during the Fall Fling. It'll just be too crazy for that. But we'll be going back to doing tours and tastings, a 1 o'clock tour and a 3 o'clock tour, and we'll be releasing our fresh eggnog in bottles on the 20th. And then on December 5th, we're having what we call our craft whiskey roundup. So this is something that we do quarterly. It's a ticketed event. We invite other distilleries to come in or other labels to come in, and together with us, we give our guests samples of the product. So we did one not too long ago with Baltimore Spirits Company and Sagamore and us. So 3 distilleries, 3 samples from each one, $20. Not a bad way to spend a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
This will be on December 5th. There's an 11 o'clock seating and a 2 o'clock seating, and it's going to be all single malt whiskeys with one blend. So we're going to have Glenallachie Distillery. That's a Speyside Scotch. We'll have a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old wine cask finish from Glenallachie. We'll have Kilchoman Distillery, their single malt and their small batch single malt. So 2 samples there, so we're up to 4. And then Koreyashi Distillery, this is a Japanese whiskey. There's a peated single malt that they produce, and then a blended Japanese whiskey, which I think is going to be stunning. Japanese whiskeys are just wonderful. So now you're up to 6. And then a sample of our cask strength American single malt, our port cask finished single malt, and our Madeira cask finish single malt. So you're going to get 9 half ounce, maybe. Ooh, that's a lot of booze. So nine samples, $20.
That's an Uber ride.
Yeah. And someone from each one of these distilleries or distributors will be there to introduce the product, talk about the product, and take questions.
So that's $20 a piece. That's $20 a ticket.
Yep.
And 2 seatings.
Right. So there will be there's an 11 o'clock seating if you want to do some day drinking, and then a 2 o'clock seating if you wake up a little later.
And where can people get those tickets?
So on our website, we have a Square site. So you would go to the place where you buy our product online, or you buy tickets for the tours and tastings.
Okay.
That'll take you to a Square site, and you can buy the tickets for the.
What is it? What is the Old Line website? Oldline.com. Old Line Spirits.
Old Line. Yeah, you had to ask me something I don't know. I think it's oldlinespirits.com. That's probably what it is.
I mean, you can go. People can Google it anyway. That's not.
And a pretty active Facebook page. There's a lot of information on our Facebook page as well.
Yeah, so follow Old Line on Facebook, and then you can find information for that particular event and future events that you guys have coming up, because you guys are pretty active.
We try to be, yeah. There's a lot involved in doing that, but we have a lot of space. I mean, the ready room is 500 square feet. The warehouse is 25,000 square feet. A lot of that is available to do event. And then 5,000 feet out in the courtyard, that's been a real good thing for us with COVID in the summertime.
Do people do private events there?
Oh, yeah, sure. We do private events for whiskey clubs. We will do private events for anybody who wants to come. We've done bachelorette parties. They'll take the whole ready room, and there'll be a bunch of folks in there going crazy doing what you do at a bachelorette party. So yeah, the whole place is available for private events, and that information is on the website as well.
Very cool.
Let's make a cocktail.
Let's make a cocktail. So I'm going to put up. So I'm going to put this thing up because I'm very proud of my cleverness today.
You did a nice job with it. So let me describe what a Boulevardier is.
We'll put this up after, because I don't want to. Two good-looking guys like us, we don't want this big black box up on.
That's right. Just a bunch of words. Come on. So some of your guests might be familiar with a Negroni cocktail. A Negroni cocktail is made with gin, Campari, and sweet vermouth. And it's equal parts gin, Campari, sweet vermouth. You stir it over ice, you stir it into a glass, garnish that with usually a lemon twist on a Negroni. It makes just a really, really nice, cocktail. Our version of that is called a Boulevardier. A Boulevardier is the same cocktail, but it's made with whiskey.
Okay.
And we're gonna make ours with our cask strength American single malt. There it is.
It's the blue label when you come into the store looking for it.
Yeah, and the bottle that I have is 61.8%, so that's 123.6 proof. So it's up there. You also use Campari, 1 ounce of Campari, or 1 part. Usually when I'm making cocktails, I just go by parts, because it's easier to kind of figure it out. So 1 to 1 to 1 whiskey, Campari. It has to be Campari. And then
there's no substitute for Campari, huh?
Some people think that there is. I don't. So Campari is an Italian liqueur. It has a sweetness to it, but it has a real nice bitterness in the finish. I think it's just lovely. I don't sip it, but you could. You could sip it as a liqueur. It's about 30%, I guess. And then the other ingredient is sweet vermouth. I use Martini and Rossi. because we use a fair bit at the Stein household. Any kind of sweet vermouth that you want. If you're the type who likes to sip vermouth and also use it as a cocktail, spend $25 or $40 on a really good vermouth. Then
Right.
you'll have a good vermouth to sip, and you'll have a good vermouth to make with your cocktails. Vermouth is a fortified wine, also from Italy. Fortified wine is this is distilled from grapes.
Right.
So you take wine and then you distill the wine, and that kicks up the alcohol with it. So generally, if you're making a cocktail, what I'm told is you put in the cheapest ingredient first.
Yes.
Because if you're at a cocktail bar and you mess it up and have to dump it, you're dumping out the cheapest ingredient, not the most expensive one.
Exactly. My friend Amy told me that works for Bar Hill.
So, smart. So when we make them at the distillery, we make them in a beaker and we stir them. The rule of thumb is if your cocktail has citrus juice in it, lemon
Right.
juice, lime juice, if it had orange juice, if it has fresh juice in it, you should shake it. That helps to incorporate everything a lot better and it won't break as it sits. If you're making your cocktail without that, it should be stirred. Guess what I have? I have a shaker. So I'm going to shake it. So here we go. 1 ounce of the sweet vermouth.
I'm really missing my music because this is the part where I usually do Kokomo.
That's right.
I got to get back on that.
1 ounce of Campari. 1 ounce of our cask strength American single malt whiskey. Now, if you're using a lower proof whiskey, you might want to use 1.5 ounces. There would be nothing wrong with that. At cask strength, 1 ounce is plenty.
Okay.
Orange bitters. Lovely. They give it a really nice flavor. Put a couple of dashes of that in. Put the lid on.
Aruba, Jamaica.
Kokomo.
Ooh, I want to take a.
There you go. Now we will always strain our cocktails. This cocktail in a chilled glass. So this glass has been sitting in the freezer. It's been chilled.
You got that on Royal Caribbean, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a bunch of those glasses too.
We keep a number of glasses in the freezer just so that they're chilled in the event that we need them. Now, your garnish is generally going to be an orange twist, a slice of orange rind. You twist it to express some of the juice in there. I don't have that. I've got these. These are pretty cool. So it's a Collins, get on the right side, Collins orange twist.
Really?
It comes with a little bit of juice in it. Yeah.
That's cool.
So they're made for Tom Collins, but you can use them for anything where you need an orange twist.
Where did you get that?
I got it online. A friend of mine turned me on to it. He said he got his at Walmart.
I've never seen that. That's it. That's cool. That's pretty cool.
So the thing about it is there's juice in here, and sometimes I'll put a little bit of juice in. Sometimes I'll just let it sit and let it go. And there it is. There's your Boulevardier.
Nice. Looks great.
Cilantro.
Cheers. Oh, we don't want to show other branding on this. This is just rocks and the single malt. Very good.
So from the flavor profile you're going to get here, it's got a malt whiskey backbone because it's got cask strength malt whiskey in it. It has that bitterness from the Campari, which I think is just wonderful. It has some sweetness to it from the sweet vermouth, and then just a little bit of orange to perk it up from the orange bitters and the orange twist with a little bit of juice that I put in there.
So when people go to the bar at the tap room or whatever you guys call it, they make every one of these drinks individually, right? They don't have like a picture of them in the back.
Absolutely. So okay. Yeah, so don't make them to order. we do have some cocktails that we made in batches and put in barrels, and we had some barrel aged cocktails for a little while. I
Ooh,
think
very cool.
yeah, they might. They're either all gone or they're close to being gone. We're getting
Right.
down to, maybe.
Well, I just feel like this cocktail in particular would be maybe a pretty popular one. So if it was super busy, that's the only reason I ask.
So I mean, it's a full service bar with a trained bartender, not a mixologist,
Right.
not
Right.
some jabroni like me who's just learning how to do this kind of stuff. And the reason we pick a relatively easy cocktail for these things is because I have to mix it.
Right.
We did a daiquiri last time. They're pretty easy to do. Some of the other cocktails that we have at the bar are a little higher end, take a little more doing, out of my wheelhouse, just not my gig. But this makes a really nice drink, and it's a nice variation on the classic Negroni cocktail.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not. I would have made it with you, but I would have had to bring all that stuff home, and it would have just sat forever. So I
do like to watch you making a drink.
I know. Well, maybe next time. It's a little tougher in the home studio too. So maybe if I get a new studio with the expansion, we can go full bore. Right? I gotta talk to Rick about that.
Yeah, see what's shaking there.
I'd be like, we really we need a full bar. So
experimental Whitey's experimental bar.
Yeah, exactly. I would love that. I'm gonna put up this so people watching can see. This is the recipe, and actually, I posted it today on our Facebook page, and so people can go there and check it out, like copy it or whatever. But this is basically it, and this is actually the cast strength, the bottle of the cast strength here. So here's the recipe: 1 ounce old line cast strength, 1 ounce Campari, 1 ounce sweet vermouth, dash bitters. Twist if you want it. That doesn't say that. Over ice. Enjoy. Boom. That's how it goes. So anybody who wants that, it's available on our Facebook page. So there you go. Perfect.
And that's what you get when you come to the Ready Room and you walk up to the bar and you order a Boulevardier. That's what you're going to get.
Wonderful. Perfect. Well, Charlie, as always, cheers.
Cheers.
Good to see you.
Rob. We really do appreciate your support for us. You guys have been really good to us. It's nice to be able to come on and talk to folks about all the new things that are going on at Old Line, and I get a drink out of it.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Yeah.
That's a perfect night, right? Chatting about stuff you like and drinking it after.
Open a beer. Yeah.
There you go. Exactly. Perfect. Thank you, my friend. I'll see you around soon, and have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks.
You bet.
All right, so I'll flash this up again so everybody can see it. So that's the recipe we just mixed. Again, this is on the Facebook page, our Facebook page, or Whitey's Facebook page. So check if you're interested in it. All you have to do is really just copy it, and you'll have it. You can actually go to Old Line. Like Charlie said, they have some events coming up this weekend. So go check them out. I think they're open pretty much, at least Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So go over there maybe with it's not an event and talk to the bartenders there and tip well. And thanks to Charlie for coming on tomorrow night. We have our friends from Sweetwater on. And then next week we have a couple other ones and live tastings this week. We have Delirium on Friday night in store. And then we have the Tits Up release with the movie on Saturday. And then next Saturday, if you can't make it to Charlie's event, we have our annual Cider and Mead Festival. And this year for ciders, we have Capital Cider House, Chesapeake Cider, Hawk Knob out of West Virginia, and Austin Ciders coming in. And for meads, we have Four Quarters, Charm City, our friends at Havoc Meat from Vermont are going to be in store. So we have 2 or 3 meats for you to try and 3 or 4 ciders for you to try. It's getting to be Thanksgiving, so it's perfect cider time. So they're all those are very good with Thanksgiving dinner. So anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow night if you so choose. I'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks everybody.